Hey, welcome on in, guys. Tobin here with you, and thanks for checking out the channel. Hope you're doing well there. If you guys could subscribe, that'd be great, and appreciate you stopping by. Also, subscribe to the WQAM YouTube channel. Now has a new handle, 1043 WQAM. Of course, if you guys haven't heard, QAM has now moved to the FM dial, so you guys can get it on 1043 on the FM side of things. No more crackling. Game's going to sound crisp. I'm an old school radio person, for people who don't know. I mean, this is what I wanted to get on radio. People think about, did you start on YouTube and all that stuff? No. What I wanted to do was be on the radio. That's what I cared about. And started my career at 790 Ticket. At 1.790, the Ticket did that jump, that very jump to 104.3. They went to 104.3, and it was a very exciting thing. We simulcasted, although I remember things couldn't be like all the way simulcasted. So I remember at one point we were on 104.3, but the morning show that we did replayed then at 10 o'clock on 104.3. 104.3, I guess you're not supposed to say the decimal anymore. That's one thing I do have to learn from not being on FM. I didn't know that was a thing. Either way, it's an exciting time. It's buzzing, and people are very fired up about it. But it does change the handle on some things. So social media handles, YouTube handles, Twitch handles, 1043 WQAM. And I think Twitch is I think it's Miami WQAM 1043, I think is the new Twitch handle for Twitchers out there. But the Miami Dolphins, they had themselves their joint practice today. Now on QAM, we will still be doing Game Day Uncensored. During the regular season, it's going to be 4 hours of pregame coverage to get you set. Preseason, we're going to do 2 hours. So this Sunday on the 1043 WQAM YouTube page, you guys can watch us, and that'll get going at 11 a.m. That'll be when that gets going. So keep an eye out of that. Mike McDaniel said today that he has not determined whether or not his starters are going to play. Obviously, some starters are going to play. There's going to be some we have a defensive back battle. We have young guys on the offensive line. I guess when we say start, are Tua, Tyreek going to play? Well, Tyreek didn't practice today. He's dealing with an oblique. Hard to believe that the Dolphins will put him out there. And I've been steadfast about this. I don't think Tua should play a snap in the preseason. I think it's a waste of time. What's the point of the risk? People will sit here and they'll be like, you got to take your real licks. Tua's in his 6th year now, guys. There's no need for it. He's been in the offense now. This is going into his 4th season with Mike McDaniel. To put even in the ether that the Dolphins, they're starting off against a Colts team, which, I mean, if the Dolphins can't beat the Colts to start this season, this is going to be a year that becomes very, very rough. But the one thing we do know, the only thing that can happen in the preseason with Tua is bad stuff. And I see no point in him playing in the preseason. That is my thought process on it. That's how I feel about it. And if they're going to play him, they're going to play him very little anyway. I'd imagine he's probably going to play the majority of his game next week, and that's probably how it'll go. But I'd be fine if he didn't take a snap this preseason. I really don't see the point in it. But Mike McDaniel did not rule out the idea because it's been chic for some guys to go out there and get some stuff. The Bengals have made a big point of this. Joe Burrow and the Bengals, they played a little bit yesterday. Patrick Mahomes is going to play a quarter, but then you have others who won't. You see around the league, there's a little bit of Kyler Murray's going to play, but the Steelers, they're not going to play Aaron Rodgers. So it's kind of all over the place with that certain thing. I think if you looked last night, like half the teams did it, half the teams didn't in the first week. I'm leaning towards the Dolphins are probably not going to play their A guys. They will play starters, but they're not going to play their stars. That's probably how that's going to go. But at practice today, it sounded, and again, I'm taking this all off of reports. I was following this all as the radio show was going on today, getting an idea of where we were at and who was saying what. Look, to no one's surprise, it felt like the defenses got the better of the day. That's typically how it's going to go the first time you're in competition. But it sounded like Tua had a really bad day. And Tua, mind you, was kind of talking that shit coming into this thing, about how clean he's been with the football around his defense. I think he even said, the defense is going to be excited to get around some footballs because I haven't been giving him those opportunities. Well, the Bears feasted on Tua today. The Bears got 3 interceptions on Tua. The Dolphins also coughed it up a couple times. Alexander Mattison, their new running back from the Raiders, he coughed it up a couple of times. So the turnovers were a problem. There were reports that the offensive line had issues, that Mike McDaniel was getting. Bears reporters were saying Mike McDaniel was getting visibly frustrated with how the offensive line was performing at certain times. And I think this was an interesting test for the Dolphins just because from an offensive standpoint, a lot of the stuff reading about the Bears coming into this week is, Ben Johnson, their new head coach, he comes from Detroit, that they had like 4 fights amongst themselves. I think the practice, not the last practice, but the practice prior to that earlier in the week, that they had been being very intense, they've been hitting live, and that they have been trying to bring a physical edge. Now, their offense, I guess, still struggled against the Dolphins this week, although the bad news is Jack Jones apparently got carted off. Some are saying that it's cramps. I don't know, but the Dolphins can't seem to catch a break with this defensive backfield thing. It's been an absolute nightmare for them all the way. But the Dolphins are going to be tested with that, and they are going to have to face that all which way. And I think that you can tell that a guy who's coming from a physical team, coaching it, he is trying to make an imprint on that immediately. And he's kind of known as like the offensive whiz kid too, right? Like a lot of the stuff that the Dolphins got famous for, the Lions did. I think back to the time the Dolphins whooped up on the Lions. It was kind of like a big turning point for the Lions, who ended up, of course, getting into a conference championship game. And so he's trying to now turn things around with that. But the Dolphins today getting into a little bit with, some fisticuffs and stuff. I think the thing that drew the most attention, because you kind of had to read it 3 times, is that the Dolphins were fighting amongst themselves. Jordan Brooks supposedly got into a fight with another teammate until man's man, Zach Sealer, came in and said, hey, knock that off. But according to Minkah Fitzpatrick after practice, that was just a level of players. Jordan Brooks was trying to hold guys accountable. And we do know that Jordan Brooks is not shy about speaking his mind. He called the team out for being soft last year with their loss to Green Bay. And so if there was a little level of the Dolphins not playing to a standard of toughness, I actually kind of think that's a good thing, that Jordan Brooks is out here and is holding guys accountable and putting him at a level where we're not going to accept that. That's what leaders should do. So I don't find that to be a negative thing, that the Dolphins were having a little scuffle amongst themselves. We, of course, got ourselves a little dust up with D. Eskridge, who got into it with one of the DBs on the Chicago Bears. And you get all kinds of accounts. There was one account that said, like, Mike McDaniel was furious and he jumps into the scrum, and you had Teron Armstead. Teron Armstead still hanging around. He's kind of doing the Udonis Haslem thing where, like, he can't quit playing. Now, I don't know if he's going because he loves it. I don't know if he's going because he loves his teammates. I don't know if he's going because he's got a YouTube show now and he wants to be boots on the ground and get a lot of great notes. Whatever. But obviously he got his face in the buzzsaw of all that to break it up and be in a place where the Dolphins, the Dolphins need him as like Mike McDaniel's bouncer to make sure Mike doesn't get killed. Because Mike McDaniel's not exactly Mike Vrabel, dude. It's not like a former NFL linebacker. If Mike McDaniel gets into the scrum, that can be dangerous. It really can. I'm not even joking. All jokes aside, like, I appreciate Mike McDaniel trying to hold guys accountable. You don't want the guy getting hurt. And he's like 2 French fries short of a bantamweight. So very, very small, tiny guy. And you're appreciate that he's putting his head in the buzzsaw and trying to keep guys in line with stuff, but head on a swivel, Mike. That could be dangerous. Jalen Waddle apparently got lit up at one point. That was scary. A lot of expectations on Jalen Waddle. A lot of people talking about, hey, they think Jalen Waddle is going to take over as wide receiver 1. I'm skeptical of that. I still think this is a Tyreek Hill team until proven otherwise. And based on how the offense may have struggled today or not look that great without Tyreek Hill, to be determined. That seems like it's still one thing out here. But I'm not sweating the idea that the Dolphins' offense stunk up the joint or didn't look that great or Tua didn't look that great. I honestly think we're past the point of grading Tua practices and how crazy he gets, I think the only thing you can say is like, hey, he came in with a little overconfidence maybe in not throwing any picks, knowing that this is, a bit of a suspect secondary. And now he got picked up a little bit. So, it could be a good moment for him too of, oh, all right, there's still a lot of things to work on. Like, you haven't mastered everything, because after what's been talked about as, pretty, I won't say outstanding camp for Tua, but people have just been like, hey, we know what it is. Like, he's out here and he's doing his job well and he's being effective. Okay, he gets if he has a humbling day and you're a veteran at this point, I think that you can handle that in the right way, but not in preseason game. It's a waste of time. Don't do that. Don't do that. It's silly. The guys who are going to play in the preseason who need to are the young linemen. Those are the guys who need to play. Figuring out the cornerback battle, those need to play. Kenneth Grant needs to play. Tyreek Hill, Tua Tagovailoa, even Jalen Waddle, Devon Achane. These guys don't need preseason. At least they don't need the first preseason game. It seems like a waste of time. I think we just get so crazy for football. You want to get out there. You want to see some level of it. I'm sure there will be a game where he does go out there and does get some action. It'll probably be next week against the Lions. Mind you, it's also a short week, even though, it's camp, so there's no real games you're gunning up for or a whole game you're gunning up for. But that's where I would expect it. I would be kind of surprised if he played this Sunday against Chicago. And Chicago's already said, Ben Johnson said, his starting guys, his top guys aren't playing in this game. So, I think there's going to be a little of tit for tat on that as well. Like, this was the competition for both. The Dolphins, to their credit on the defensive side of things, sound like they gave some hell to Caleb Williams and gave him a tough day, which is kind of to be expected. Like, this is usually where it's at when you get to this point of camp. Maybe things will look better next week against Detroit, but I don't think anybody. And I get it. People are at a point right now with the Dolphins. There's either maybe holding on hope, or there are people who are just done and fed up or apathetic. But I'm talking about the people who are feeling actual emotions right now. Like, I think that people are just pissed off. And if there was a bad practice, you're just like, this is more heading towards a bad day. I'm not ready to get there yet. I'm not. I think that's too crazy to be here. Not a great day, but doesn't seem like the fighting amongst themselves was a big thing. If you listen to what Minka Fitzpatrick had to say, Tua having a stinker, I think that we're in year 6. We're at the point where we don't have to lose our minds over that anymore. If this was year 2 Tua, people would be going bananas. This would be sports radio for the next week plus, but not at this point. It's just it doesn't hit the same as far as concerns is concerned.